My experience with English language. Without a doubt, we all have dreamed about understanding another language different from the one we have as a mother tongue. Watching programs with English content when we were little kids, starting to have English language as a subject in secondary school, and not having technology ever but nice teachers and my biggest efforts were aspects that out of the blue made me increase my interest in English. Moreover, they made me want to know a lot about it besides understanding it thoroughly more and more to end up sharing that knowledge with other people in a classroom. At the beginning, everything was so dark. Going to my 6-hour second house called school to have more than 10 subjects surrounding my head and entering my brain little by little, and not having decided yet which to focus the more in, was somewhat frustrating, and even more if you were an 8-year-old kid that just wanted to mess around and leave the square classroom to play with your peers in your neighborhood, to be later shouted at by your mother telling you to get into your homework duties. For many of us, every subject had some ease but English. English was a drag-me-to-hell chunk of 1 or 2 hours where not only I had to solve problems, read short chapters of a book, or simply know how to play a sport, but also I was supposed to think in another language and gain a full bag of vocabulary in my head to be able to translate a written number or even the parts of a typical American house. In secondary school, where I was starting to get used to the 90% of the subjects and I had already started to appreciate many of them, English seemed to be rocketing its level of complexity using new textbooks and more structured sentences rather than numbers and animal names in isolation. However, still it was quite boring to make an utterance in negative, in affirmative, in question, and finally to have to translate it. Likewise, as soon as I crossed the front door to get in my house, I used to have lunch and turn the television on to watch Jetix, Nickelodeon, and Disney Channel, encountering with a frequent surprise that English exclamation and statements appeared on the programs I was watching, and little by little, I started having curiosity to know what it meant. Being listening to a foreign person speaking, watching a sitcom in English language, or every time I watched cartoons, I started feeling like being able to understand it all thoroughly. Therefore, I grabbed my dictionary every afternoon, and as soon as I saw a word in English, I would look it up, ending up all of a sudden realizing that I was getting more and more interest in those foreign words that spread and uncovered from a specific word. Then I just accustomed to have my Chicago aside me, and every strange word I heard or saw in my everyday life, even if I was not in front of a TV, I would write it down so I could find the meaning later because I simply wanted to discover English vocabulary more and more. Incredibly, in school, I began to have English as my favorite subject, and whenever I found my English teacher, I would ask her about the exact definition of a word that could not be precisely found in my dictionary, taking into account that internet was not in its boom time in 2008 to make use of an online translator. Consequently, I started to have excellent grades compared to the ones in the rest of the subjects. It was such a great success of mine that the teacher I had started to mention me in teacher's lounge, and the other teachers, especially the rest of the English teachers, began being proud of having in the school a student that knew more than 80 verbs in 8th grade and could, with difficulty of course, have a conversation with this teacher for almost the first time in the Fairleigh institution. So much was all of this that I even got invitation and presents at the end of the school year from my teacher Odelia. Passing through 9th and 10th grade, loved by the English teachers, and with classmates calling me Dictionary Boy, I kept on enhancing my level, and despite the low level of English teaching in my school compared to the other private schools, I didn't have any problem in understanding structures of the different English tenses. Any English tense taught, I would fast and easily grasp in the intention and usage. And all that made me feel highly proud of myself, even if communicative competence and the best didactic methods were not used in classrooms. At the end of 10th grade in 2012, my new and current English teacher Hernan told me about a free 2-year English course offered by University Cooperativa de Colombia in Ibagué, called Becarios, which consisted in having the 2 best English students from 25 schools in Ibagué. Of course, I accepted with another classmates. We presented a placement test one Saturday, and only the 30 best scores out of the 50 students who were present in the exam could pass. Hence, I started to study English every Saturday for 2 years, and of course, the experience was genuinely unique, along with the teachers and the modern methods for me they used. There, I strengthened all my skills in English, and I learned a lot. When the course finished 2 years later, finishing 2012 and at the same time school, we ended up being just 22 out of the 30 who started the course, since in every level he who got less than 3.0 in the final grade, he would have to leave the course. After graduating from Becario's course and few months before graduating from Fe Alegria school, I had to experience that hasty decision of choosing a career and I was so confused. But at the end, I realized that I was so in love with English that I didn't want this experience to stop there. On the contrary, I wanted to become more expert in that language. Moreover, at the same time, to share my knowledge to other people, because somehow all those previous teachers had inspired me. Therefore, I decided that I wanted to keep English for all my life and teach it to kids, teenagers as I was, and adults. I decided to study BA in English, where from 2013 I have been learning more and more and I have seen many fields related to it that I had never imagined. Besides being currently working on it, maintaining a little in balance my economical status. Finally, it is great to see how thanks to foreign media and teachers, a person is able to change his mind and they make someone get interested in something that initially was not very appealing to him. Furthermore, it is pertinent to mention that although the tools were not available, the effort and the desire to learn something is stronger, and all that is possible when you have the intention to excel. Now, I am aware that I love what I study and what I do. English is my future. English is my life.